Welcome back. I saw a comment on my last deep dive that said they missed my intro, so shouts out to you, commenter. I would also like to shout out our channel members. I appreciate each and every one of you. And last of all, a big thank you goes out to Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Protecting your identity is becoming increasingly important. This year, in 2024, we saw how hackers were able to steal the social security numbers of every American. Over 2.9 billion records were stolen from national public data, which provides information to employers, private investigators, staffing agencies, and others that perform background checks. This includes your full name, your date of birth, your address, your social security number, and even any alternate names you might go by. If you weren't already taking precautions to protect your personal data, then this should be a huge wake-up call, because you've never been more vulnerable than you are right now. And going into the new year, the best gift that you can give yourself is the gift of peace of mind. When I first heard about the data breach, I was terrified. But thankfully I use Aura, and I knew that if my information was included in a data leak, that they were already working hard to protect me. Aura alerts me if they find my phone number, email, or social security on the dark web. They quickly notify me if anybody is trying to use this information to access my bank or credit accounts. And in the worst case scenario that somebody does manage to steal my identity, Aura has an identity theft insurance that will give me up to $5 million. They also provide a bunch of other features that help keep you safe online, all within a single app. You can use my link, aura.com/coldcoffin, to try it out for free for 14 days, which is more than enough time for Aura to find out if your information has been leaked and begin the removal process. Aura provides features like antivirus, VPN, password management, and more. It's really easy to set up, and best of all, you get it all at one affordable price. You may already have one or two of these tools already, but not having Aura is like locking the front door but leaving the back door wide open. Aura is always on, doing the hard work of keeping me safe so that I can focus on other things with peace of mind. I value my privacy, but I value yours too. So go to aura.com/coldcoffin to start your 2-week free trial. The link will be provided in the description. Thank you so much to Aura. And now, back to the video. Our first post comes from the user by the name AnyBowl5195 and was posted on November 5th, 2024. Their post went like this. In a super weird situation right now at my job. Definitely afraid for my life. I don't know if this is the right sub for this, but I am truly at a loss for words. I can't say much because of HIPAA, but Jesus, I am so freaked out. Very long story short contexts. I work in social services. My partner and I opened a client family about a month and a half ago, and soon learned that they were being stalked. My agency ordered them cameras, police had them called, and client dad got a gun. But we continued to meet with them because nothing crazy would ever happen to us. Right? Well, wrong. Today we arrived to the home and were accused of calling Child Protective Services on this family. Confused, we tried to ask for more information, but there was yelling, crying, and a lot of verbal aggression. Client mom tells us that she got a call from a detective stating that they were following up on a Childline report that the in-home counselor reported. Obviously, that's a lie. We're not in-home counselors. And that is not how Childline works. Mandated reporters file reports electronically. Childline then sends the report to Children and Youth. Children and Youth would then involve state police if needed. Client family says that they got no calls from Children and Youth. No follow-up calls from the police department either. Am I crazy? Or was this not a detective that the mom was speaking to? We are so confused and honestly scared for our lives. Their stalker has been in jail for heinous crimes. He was only released from jail this year, and he then immediately made contact with them. I asked her if she knew for a fact that the person who called was a detective, and she swore he was, but she doesn't remember his name. My boss, thank God, says we should not go see this family anymore until we know what's happening. Someone is clearly aware that my partner and I are working with this family. They know who we are and that we go to their home, and they're claiming that we filed reports against this family. I am distraught. I can't tell if I'm being overly dramatic. I really can't. My roommate says not to be scared. My teammate is freaking out, and even my husband thinks something is off. My boss is thinking we should go to the police, but that would break HIPAA. I don't know what to think. I don't even know if I want to go to work tomorrow. Should I be worried? Or am I freaking out for no reason? This situation stands out from previous cases of stalking that I have looked into. not only does the family have to deal with their stalker, but they are also currently involved with social services, which in itself can be very complicated and stressful. From my experience with stalking stories, I've learned that stalkers' obsessions with their victims will oftentimes lead them to do terrifying things. This can range from non-consensual filming of the victim, spam phone calls, and of course physical violence. Now, it's not clear whether or not the stalker actually contacted Child Protective Services or lied about it in order to get the family away from the social workers, but the OP states that the process of contacting CPS on their end is done electronically, and even points out that the alleged detective called them in-home counselors, which was incorrect. This makes me believe that if the person who made the call to the client mother was the stalker, then they could have been outside of the client family's home during one of the OP's visits. Either somebody called Childline and informed them that the client family's children were in immediate danger, which led to Childline getting the police involved right away, or the stalker made a fake call to the client family in an effort to scare them and get them away from the OP and their partner. Things get even more complicated due to HIPAA law, which, for those of you that do not know, HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. I won't get into the full HIPAA guidelines, but to keep it simple, here's an excerpt from the Health and Human Services website about HIPAA. The privacy rule standards address the use and disclosure of individuals' health information, called protective health information, by organizations subject to the privacy rule, called covered entities, as well as standards for individuals' privacy rights to understand and control how their health information is used. This basically means that anybody handling your health information cannot disclose any of that information to anyone. Protected information includes the individual's past, present, or future physical or mental health or condition, the provision of healthcare to the individual, and the past, present, or future payment for the provision of healthcare to the individual. Which is why the OP felt that their hands were tied when it came to getting direct help from the police. But some Redditors would point out in the comments that there are exceptions to this. When it comes to law enforcement, HIPAA laws allow information disclosure when a covered entity believes that protected health information is evidence of a crime that occurred on its premises. There are also other reasons for disclosure, but in our OP's case, this seems to be fitting for the situation, especially now that the OP feels that they're in danger from whoever is stalking and harassing the client family. The top comment came from the user Psychological Tank 174. Going to the police is not a HIPAA violation. You need to go ahead and file a report. They should be able to get the phone records to see who actually made that call. But some Redditors seemed to believe that maybe something else was going on behind the scenes. User Alien List would comment this: I wonder whether the family is actually being stalked, or whether the stalking is as fake as the call from the detective. The OP would reply back to this comment: I had this thought. If that's the case and they're lying, what the kind of people are they? No thanks. I don't know what to think. I feel for them, truly. They are highly anxious and traumatized, but right now, I don't feel like I can trust them at all. I tried to tell the mom that I was concerned, because this did not sound real. I told her to contact Childline to see whether or not there is an actual report, but she didn't believe us, thought we were lying, and tried to cover our tracks. Or maybe she was lying, and just didn't want us to peep it. I don't know. I'm going crazy. I don't think I'll sleep very well tonight. User Amazeling would reply to the OP: People have mental breaks all the time. There's even a subreddit for r/gang stalking, where very mentally ill people post that they're being stalked, but it's actually a delusion. My best friend had a complete mental breakdown and swore up and down that her neighbors were after her and stalking her, to the point she drove 12 hours away overnight to another state to stay with our other friend. Once she got to our friend's house, all of a sudden, her stalkers were there and talking to your neighbors. She was having a psychotic break, and she was finally made to get help, which she's grateful for. To be honest, I'm surprised you haven't come across this yet working in social services, but if you're new to the field, take this as a learning curve, because you may very well come across something like this again. Edit to add that it seems like your job/office may need some extra training on what HIPAA does and doesn't cover, and what your rights are as a social worker. If your job isn't providing you with a safe working environment to the best of their abilities, this is something to consider when thinking about staying at your position. But the OP would confirm that the individual who went to jail for the stalking was in fact real. I hear you, and my teammate and I already considered this. Unfortunately, we did confirm that this man was in jail and had a history of stalking the family. That said, maybe he has nothing to do with anything currently, and he's far away on parole. We know that there is a confirmed history, but you're right. For all we know, this man is in another state, and this is just a really fucked up trauma response on the family's end. There are 5 of them, so do you think they're all having a mental break? Could the mom have convinced them of her delusions? I'm a year and a half post-grad, went into the field immediately, so yes, I'm a newbie. So obviously there's a lot going on already. I saw one comment about how the mother could be paranoid due to the past stalking, and since they are aware that their stalker had been released from prison, they could be having delusions that they are once again being stalked due to the potential unchecked trauma, which could make sense. But that is just a theory from a Reddit comment, so we can't put too much weight into it. The very next day, however, the OP did come back with an update on the situation. Thanks to everyone who commented something helpful, I did not go into work today. Before I update, I'd like to provide some clarification. For one, my agency does not deal with this sort of thing. We are a community-based voluntary program. Second, for anyone commenting about HIPAA, I don't know what to tell you. Either you've never worked in social services, or you have way too high of an expectation for my office. I'm so pissed off right now with the outcome of this all. Obviously, my agency is shitty. That's why I'm job hunting. If I felt supported by them at all, I wouldn't have to post on Reddit for advice. I was told today that since we do not have releases of information signed for CYS or for the local police department, we cannot call to make inquiries. We can file a report, but my boss does not think that's necessary. I disagree, but I need this job and cannot jump ship until I have something else lined up. As for the update, the family fired us today. We told them that we did not feel comfortable meeting at the home until we got further consultation from our boss. They messaged back something snarky. My boss called them and they fired us. I asked my boss if we can call CYS to see if there is an actual report, or at the very least, call the police department to see if they have an open case. But boss tells us they won't even give us that information if we're not working with the family currently. I'm livid. I told my boss that I would at least like to know if I'm in any danger, but I guess that doesn't matter. Obviously, if there really is a crazy stalker dude, he's not gonna give a fuck about us if we're not working with the family anymore. So fuck it. Just makes me feel like a POS for losing the family when that was probably this person's intent. They're too anxious and traumatized to accept our help. They're falling right into this guy's trap. For anyone who commented that I am not cut out for this job, honestly, fuck you. I've spent far too long putting others before myself. Only recently have I begun to set boundaries and do things for myself. I'll be damned if I put my life on the line for an agency that only cares about money. We're money to them. We bill hours and make them money. That's all that matters to them. F that. I do this job to help others, and not to deal with stuff that is way above my pay grade, and should instead be handled by a police department. By the way, the family says they don't want to go back to the police because they don't do shit anyway. They're mentally ill and super traumatized. No point in wasting my breath trying to reason with them if they're not willing to hear it. In the meantime, I'll be buying a Ring camera and taking the long way home from work for the next few weeks. Not the update I was initially hoping for, but I can sympathize with the OP. While I've never worked in social services, I can imagine that the mental and emotional toll that comes along with the job can be excruciating at times. You can tell that our OP really wants to help these people, but unfortunately, the system is not perfect, and with the situation as it stands, there's nothing else that they can do. I don't personally believe that the stalker really cares about the OP, but like the OP said, if this is what the stalker wanted, then the family may have played right into their trap. Since then, there have been no more updates, and there likely won't be. All we can do is hope that the family gets whatever help it is that they need, and that our OP is able to find work where they can help others elsewhere. But lastly, I would like to say to the OP that you did the best in everything that you could, so you shouldn't be too hard on yourself. This post was uploaded by the user Petite Cheese Potato on August 16th, 2024, and it is very similar to a post I recently covered in a previous video. I was kidnapped, but I don't know what happened. Hey everyone, I have a memory that's been disturbing me for decades now, and my mom confirmed that it did happen. In 1998/1999, my kindergarten school bus driver picked me up. it was a different person. Usually it was a woman, but this time it was a scrawny guy with shaggy hair. I got on the bus and there was another girl. I didn't know her, and I wasn't friends with her, so I sat by myself. My memory skips to stepping off the bus. It's darker outside, and a police officer is kneeling in front of me at eye level and asks if I'm okay while putting his hand on my shoulder. Then he assures me that everything was going to be okay. There was no snow. I was wearing a winter coat, and so was the officer. It was probably late fall. I can't remember anything else. I asked my mom and she confirmed it happened and refused to talk about it because it upset her so much. I was never allowed on the school bus since, and my parents religiously picked me up and dropped me off at school until I started university. It happened in North York, Ontario, Canada. I think the bus company was Line Dock, and the school was St. Isaac Jogues Elementary School. That's all the information I have. I've tried obsessively Googling for years and haven't been able to find anything. It's been disturbing me for years that I don't know anything and no one else is telling me anything. I'd love any help or guidance in trying to find any more information. I'm at such a loss. Thank you in advance. Like I said, this story is a lot like the Redditor who ended up being kidnapped by their uncle with the intentions of holding them for ransom money so that they could buy drugs. The first comment would come from a user named TryKNJ99. Is it possible someone took you or hijacked the bus and they got caught before they could harm you? To which the OP would reply with, I considered that, but there's definitely several hours between pickup and drop-off. I remember the sun being up in the sky, almost like it was noon or 1 p.m., and then returning when the sky was dark blue, like right after dusk. I know my kindergarten class was half day, and I was in the afternoon cohort. Old Fox 3027 would add, call the police department where you lived at the time and ask to see the police reports. Which seems like a good idea to me, especially if the bus was hijacked. They should have something on file. User Substantial Pressure 3, however, would recommend a different approach. I'm not seeing anything that far back, but apparently school bus drivers attempting to abduct children isn't rare. That's terrifying. I would ask a librarian. They could tell you where to find that info. Of course, there were many more comment suggestions, but not long after they originally posted, the OP would come back with their first edit. There are so many helpful comments. Thank you, everyone. It's currently 1 a.m., and I'll be heading out to see my parents tomorrow. I'll try to go to the local library nearby and start there. It's a lot less daunting to go to the library in comparison to the police. I'll go through the rest of the comments tomorrow, and I'll provide an update if I do/don't find anything. Someone asked about the man's appearance. He looked like he was in his 50s. He was really thin and had appeared Caucasian, but with a very strong tan. He had black hair that was quite shaggy, and he was wearing a black leather jacket that was kind of hung off of him. I can understand why going to the library first would be less daunting, though as user Robus Sarticus, who stated that they were a librarian, would say, requesting police records are likely the most efficient method. The OP remembers that the police were involved, and they must have documented the incident, so if anybody has the information of what happened, it should be them. Going to the library would also require a lot more digging and be more time-consuming. A FOIA request would be the most surefire way to get the full police report, but that would require actually knowing about the case itself, to which we have no solid information on. A bit later, the OP would provide another edit with more information on how their bus route worked. Edit. It's 7 a.m. and I realized I missed some key details about how the bus works. I apologize. I was fixated on posting what the memory was in my frustrated sleepiness. My mom put me on the bus to go to school midday, and the bus ride is 5 to 7 minutes. She had a home daycare and couldn't take me. I was always the last one on because I was the closest, so the bus would always be half-ish full, and it was one of the small school buses. Normally, when kids are dropped off at school, there's a teacher who is assigned on bus duty, who takes attendance and then goes into the bus for a quick check before going in. It was in case someone forgot their bag or something. If I'd fallen asleep, wouldn't the bus attendant have found me? And what happened to the rest of the kids that were on the bus? I don't have an explanation for why there was only one other kid on the bus, but I do remember that when I was in school, I was also a bus rider, and teachers would do the attendance when we got to the school. Going home, of course, was a different situation. A friend of mine once fell asleep and had to be picked up at the bus station, but the OP situation seems a lot more serious. The OP states that they believe that they were going to school, as their mom had put them on the bus. But the mention of it being dark outside contradicts that, and suggests that they were maybe going home. The fact that the OP's mother refuses to talk about it also implies that whatever happened could have been so bad that she doesn't ever want to bring it up again. Maybe even so traumatizing that the OP blocked it out of their memory. But thankfully, we would get some answers on a second post only one day after the OP originally posted. Hey everyone, thank you so much for all the comments, suggestions, support, and concerns. I want to address why I want to find out what happened. I don't know if it was something nefarious or not. That's been the most unsettling part of it. Having this blank block of memory and not knowing if I did get hurt or if it was really something simple. It's hard not to go through all sorts of scenarios in my mind and going into the direction of something bad, because I just don't know, and it's scary not knowing. I also want to address that I come from a first-generation immigrant family, so there's not really any family for me to ask besides my parents, who refuse to talk about it. That's a whole mess of its own. You can see my post history about my parents. It's too much to get into. Now for the update. There was an article found by 2 Redditors. Thank you both so much. That's maybe my situation. However, it does not name me, but it says children. This is the article that the OP provided. Late school bus had family fearing worst. Laidlaw driver gets lost. Children cry for parents. For 6-year-old Jocelyn Vasquez, the first day of school was just fine, until she got on the bus to go home. It was good at first, said Jocelyn, who started grade 1 at École St. Madeleine in North York on Nest Drive, near Victoria Park Avenue yesterday. I met new friends, but I got scared on the bus. Her bus was supposed to deliver her to her home in the Pharmacy and Lawrence Avenues area by 4:10 p.m. But her mother, Michelle Vasquez, says the bus driver, a rookie, got lost and her only daughter only arrived home at 6 p.m. The minute I got in the door, I wanted to hug my daughter and ask her how her day was. A still distraught Vasquez said last night. But she wasn't home. I thought she was assaulted or killed. The family only started getting really worried when Jocelyn still wasn't home at 4:30. Telephone calls to Laidlaw Transit provided little comfort. Despite assurances, the bus had not arrived at 5 p.m., and then they were in a panic. By 5:30 p.m., Roberto Vasquez was so frightened, he called the police. And the family, Roberto, Michelle, her sons Shane, 19, and Brandon, 16, took to the streets to scour the neighborhood for Jocelyn's bus. When they found her just before 6 p.m., Jocelyn told them that she and the other children on the bus were crying and asking for their parents. Today, Jocelyn will get a ride to school from her parents. They want assurances the incident won't be repeated. I can't go through this again, Michelle said. The Laidlaw Transit lieutenant could not be reached for a comment. Back to the OP's update. There is the issue of timing of the day. As I remember, I was going to school and my mom also confirmed that she put me on the bus and I never made it to school, and they called her. According to the article, in 1998, a new school bus driver from Laidlaw got lost on a route he didn't know and had children on the bus for about 2 to 3 hours. I'm planning to go to a local police station with the article and see if I can ask for more information, just to get that confirmation, as I cannot ask my mom to confirm it, unfortunately. I'll try to link the article in a comment. I'm currently on my phone, so it's hard to be organized, and I'm also at my parents' place and trying to be discreet. Thank you again, everyone. I'll update again once I get confirmation. I'm relieved that it doesn't appear nefarious, and frustrated that my parents could have just said that instead of being so dramatic. The problem, as the OP points out, is that they remember the incident happening on the way to school, and the article talks about the incident happening on the way from school. And again, why do the parents refuse to speak about it? If it had been something as simple as the driver got lost, then why continue to withhold the information? The article was printed in September of 1998, so the timeline does line up, and so do the schools, which, as you can see on the screen, are right next to each other. My old bus route used to pick up kids from both the primary and elementary schools on the same block, similar to what we're seeing here, which could explain why the article says St. Madeleine despite the OP going to St. Isaac. One commenter named Tostino27 would provide another article, but instead of linking it, they seemingly just copied and pasted it into their comment. The bus kidnapping incident involving children from St. Isaac Jogues Elementary School in North York, Ontario, occurred on September 28, 1998. This terrifying event took place when a man, later identified as Francisco Estrada, hijacked the school bus carrying 13 children. Estrada was reportedly experiencing a mental health crisis, boarded the bus with a rifle, and forced the driver to drive to North York Civic Center. During the ordeal, Estrada demanded to speak to the Prime Minister and made various incoherent statements. The situation was extremely tense as the children were held hostage on the bus for several hours. Fortunately, the standoff ended without physical harm to the children. Estrada eventually surrendered to the police after hours of negotiations. The incident left a significant impact on the community and highlighted the importance of crisis intervention and mental health support. The bravery of the bus driver, who remained calm throughout the ordeal, were crucial in ensuring the safe resolution of the situation. There are a couple problems with this article. The first one being, of course, that we don't have a link to it. Secondly, looking up the actual article itself yields 0 results. Even when you type in keywords like Francisco Estrada's name and bus hijacking, you get absolutely nothing. Now, explain to me how a bus driver getting lost on his route home makes the news, but a guy hijacking a school bus armed with a rifle doesn't. It just doesn't make sense. But let's assume for just 1 second that this is real. This could explain why the OP's mother refuses to speak about it, and maybe even why the OP is unable to remember. And even when asked by other commenters for the link to the article, Tostino does not post it, and instead comments that they messaged the OP. This interaction happened back in August, but since then, the OP has not confirmed if the article was real or not, but they have been posting regularly, which doesn't seem to help the situation at all. One thing to think about, though, is that this interaction was the last thing that the OP posted surrounding the situation. So maybe, if it was real, the OP got the answers they were looking for and moved on from this saga. But they've been good about giving updates so far, so why suddenly stop? From their post and comment history, the OP does seem to have a complicated relationship with their parents. But that's not the focus of this investigation, so I won't get into the details. This might give some insight as to why they keep refusing to give the OP this information, but as of the making of this video, that's pretty much all we have. I am curious to hear what you believe happened. Could this have been something as simple as the driver getting lost? Or could the parents' silence on the matter suggest that something else, and more sinister, like the alleged kidnapping Tostino27 commented on, happened? Let me know what you think down in the comments. That's all for this video. Leave a like if you made it this far. Make sure to turn on post notifications so that you don't miss out on the next video. And as always, thanks for watching.